Hello, everybody. Eric Dillman here, and welcome back to another Pro Series podcast. Today's episode 51, and it is strictly audio based. So, if you're trying to look for the video this week, I am trying something different. This is just going to be completely audio based. I know it's odd, 50 episodes in, and I've never done an audio based podcast. It's always been video. But next week will be video again, so stay tuned to that. But this is episode 51 with HGTV's John Wrobel. He and his wife, Dani, are on a show called Flip to a Million. Allison Victoria is also on the show, and there's another couple. It is a very different type of show that HGTV has had. It has to do a lot with house flipping. So if you're very interested in house flipping, it's a different type of house flipping show that you're used to. So definitely watch it. It just finaleed a couple weeks ago, so you could go on Discovery Plus and watch the whole first season. And make sure you let Dani and John know what you think about the show. Definitely stay tuned for more. And before we jump into the episode 51, please make sure you like, subscribe, and rate this podcast. It really helps the success of the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. And now I hope you enjoy episode 51 with John Wrobel. Thank you so much, John, for coming on the Pro Series podcast today. Very excited to talk to you about the show you're on HGTV, and then a little bit about your company and your background.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I definitely want to first start out. You're on Flip to a Million with your wife. Give us a little background of what the show's about for anybody that hasn't seen it, and the whole premise of the show.
Sure. So, Flip to a Million is a groundbreaking series that premiered on HGTV. It was on Monday nights, 9 p.m. Now, we just wrapped up last night with the finale, but you can now stream it on Discovery Plus. But it's a really groundbreaking show where it's not really something that HGTV had in the past. The show where it's an arc where we started off with $1,000. Dani and me and another couple, EJ and Jason from Chicago. We each started off with $1,000 in a place that we've never been before. In this particular place, we went to Texas for the season, and we had to pull every string, out of our pocket. We had to, really go in hard and use every strategy that we had experience with to make that $1,000 into $1 million sale in a 6-month time period. So you'll see a lot of different things in the course of the series. And what it actually does is it goes from one week to the other, where it builds on what our success or even maybe what we failed on in one episode, and we go on to hopefully reach that $1 million sale.
Yeah, and I'll attest to that. I was watching it, and it is a completely different concept to whatever you're expecting on HGTV or any type of home show. It's very, it goes kind of into, obviously there's a lot of design work, but I liked how it showed the stress level, everything that you guys were going through to get to that 1 million mark. And it's kind of cool how it's kind of broken out, and it's not like a full house per episode type of deal like you'd see on other shows, which I think the whole concept of this show is just absolutely amazing. And I think anybody who loves design or loves real estate would love to watch this show. Before this show, were you a design company I know you and your wife have a design company, but how were you discovered, and how was this whole show came about?
Right. So my wife and I, we did flips. We did all different types of flips, whether it was buy and hold, fix and flips in generally the Long Island, New York area. And, over the course of our flipping and investment company, we also did client renovations. Dani is a fantastic designer, where she, her actual background before, getting into design was occupational therapy. As an occupational therapist, she helped people, get back to living after dealing with strokes or major injuries. And that includes, being able to walk again, being able to, you know, live a new normal life with, you know,
Hmm.
maybe being bound to a wheelchair. So when we were doing our, and this started as a hobby more or less for us, where we were investing in real estate, doing house flipping. So as we were invested in real estate and doing design work, Dani incorporated a lot of these concepts she's learned as a licensed occupational therapist into her design concepts, doing open floor plans, you know, wide spaces, a large, you know, like a lot of like um, areas of a house where, you know, like we do like like large primary suites. We do, you know, a lot of walk-in areas throughout the house where it really it opens up to a general population of buyers when people buy our flips. But it also is great if you were wheelchair bound, if
Yeah.
you are having, you know, if you are maybe a late stage baby boomer where you're in the geriatric pool where you need maybe not to go upstairs. So, you know, we do a lot of different things, and it really caught on, and we've had, you know, over the last 10 years a lot of success. And a couple of years ago, one of the agents that we do business with reached out to us, and he had gotten a casting call from a production company, and pretty much, you know, Dani was like, John, do you want to do this? And honestly, you know, at first I was like, you know, I don't know. I was kind of weary about it. You know, I didn't think, you know, we'd be on TV, but it was a whole process, you know, and then the pandemic happened. That kind of stole things a little bit. And then, you know, I'm really into on the business end, and what the show does is it shows the business end through the home renovation side of it. And you don't really have many home flipping shows where you really see the business and you see the design work, see the before and after, but not really like, okay, what do you do now? How do you purchase a house? We kind of go into that a lot with the show. You know, we talk about different ways of building onto a down payment, building onto ways to go from one house and go up the property ladder to the next level of house. And so, you know, the premise of the show really intrigued me and got me on board. And I think it really showcases, you know, different things. Like you'll see in the show, showcase like designing a kitchen, designing a house on a property that's maybe $100,000, $150,000. And then
Hmm.
you see us go to the next level where you'll see a house, you know, in the mid-range, $200,000 to $300,000, a $500,000 house. You'll see, okay, how do you design a kitchen or a landscape of a house with that budget, and then work our way to that $1 million property. So you see all elements of the real estate market, which is a really cool concept that you don't typically see.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's the main reason what really intrigued me on this show. I usually start out all these episodes on how I found the guest, and the way I found you was actually watching your show first. Usually it's the other way around. I find you on like social media or a commercial or something. I didn't even see a preview of the show yet, and I just started watching it. It kind of drew me in. Um, Actually, first I saw Allison Victoria. I thought she kind of had like her own, her whole new show in this. And as I see, it was you and another couple doing this. Which, if you're a fan of Allison Victoria, definitely watch this. But this is you, both couples in the show, you and your wife, and the other couple are great at. It seems like you guys were on TV forever. You guys do a really great job of explaining stuff. I'm not sure if that came naturally to you guys, but you do really do a great job with explaining stuff, not just design wise, but business related stuff.
So thank you. You know, well, that's what's interesting about the show. Like Dani and I, like what you see on TV is 100% real emotion, real like, you know, it's like as reality as it can get really in the home renovation type shows. And there's like you see the real emotion, you see like the trials and tribulations of what goes on. And it's kind of interesting because I don't know how many HGTV shows where they have to bleep out a host, you know. And I think every episode I kind of get bleeped out at the end because it's something goes wrong or something's happening, and then the bombs start dropping in there. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened, you know?
Yeah, it shows that it's real because sometimes you're
Yeah.
thinking on shows, is it staged? Is it like the production company saying, "Hey, can you do this for the scene?" But yeah, those type of moments I like because it shows that it's really happening and it's not like all for show. Because obviously, shows you have to do some type of entertainment level to it. But yeah, I fell in love with the show just because it's just so drastically different. I think sometimes people kind of, like I said in the beginning, that it kind of gets stale with some of these shows, but I love the whole business side of this show that I feel like a lot of these networks have been missing with these home renovation shows.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, like we start off like wholesaling. No one ever talks about wholesaling. I don't think there's any show that's ever even mentioned wholesaling in
Yeah.
the history of home renovation shows. And we talk about that, and we talk about, you know, all right, maybe do it private lending, you know, doing you know, private finance, and that's not really talked about. And it's like you see a lot of these shows, and you're just like, how did they get the money to do this? Where's the money coming from? And the show kind of hits it on the head a little bit, where it really stresses, okay, we have this amount of money. How do we go to the next house? How do we do this? You know, and you know, a lot of times people, you know, EJ and Jason and the other couple had a far different strategy than we did, and it's cool to see different concepts applied to the
Oh
challenge that
yeah.
we did. And you know, I can speak for what we did, and what Dani and I did was our strategy was, okay, let's start outside of Dallas, right? Because we knew that Dallas is a very competitive market. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that DFW and Austin are the top two. They go back and forth every year between the top two flipping markets. And so I knew, like, in like right in like the heart of Dallas, there's no way we're gonna find a property for like 100,000, 150,000, and then, you know, be able to start off with no money. And so I said to Danny, I said, look, let's start like looking outside of the box here. What are we doing? We're not from Dallas, so we had to look on a map, drive around, go all over Texas, and you know, went all the way to the Oklahoma border pretty much. And we start out there, and what's cool is you see, okay, yeah, now we have a property in contract. Now we have a house. How do we pay for this? Well, let's brainstorm on ways to pay for the renovation aspect of it. So it's certainly cool where you see different things that you wouldn't normally see, and
Mhm.
then applying that, and then you like going from one episode to the other, and then you have more funds, and you still, you know, you're never out of the clear, right? We still had, you know, a lot of, you know, we still budget. The budget plays a big role for us throughout the show, and you see that, and then okay, where do you spend money, right? Do you spend money on bathrooms? Do you spend money on kitchen? Do you do landscape? Where do you put that money? And you kind of have to just concentrate. Okay, what's going to get the best return on investment?
Mhm. Yeah, so as the show opens up, you and Danny are in a kitchen. It looked like you were remodeling. Were you renovating something before the show even started?
Right. So, well, that was in New York. So,
Okay.
the show opens up. We were in New York. We are doing one of our client renovations, and the production comes out. They film us. That you see that, and then we get a phone call from Allison Victoria, and Allison says, you know, you ready to do this, and then tells us where we're going to go. And at that time, when we got that phone call, we had no idea where we were going. You know, that's
Yeah.
100% how it was. Like we were like, you know, I mean, I thought it was going to be a place where it was, you know, obviously a flipping market, right? I didn't think they were going to put us in, you know, in the middle of nowhere where there'd be no resources. So, but Dallas is one of the most competitive flipping markets, right? So
Mhm.
even though there's a lot of flipping going on, it's almost harder than if you put us in another city where flipping is prevalent, but not like to the extreme of how it is in DFW. And that was a challenge right there. You go into open houses and there's 100 people at an open house for, you know, a property that's $200,000, where, you know, you may not have that in other parts of the country. So that was tricky. But the show
Yeah.
opens up with that, and you see us doing the renovation, and then we had to pack up our bags, get going, and you see us, you know, a whole family, our dogs, our kids, down in Dallas, Texas.
That's crazy. How hard was it trying to find? I mean, at your home, you have your go-to flooring person, your go-to tile person. How hard was it to up and move to a completely different location, be timed on this, and have to get stuff done quickly, but know no one, really?
But that was, I think, that's the hardest part of the show, right? Like
Mhm.
I, we've been doing real estate for a long time. I know the principles of what makes a good investment, right? Whether you know the area or not, we have a simple formula that I try to tell everyone. When you're looking for investment, you always want to look for a house in an area where there's things to do, right? Bars, restaurants, colleges, performing arts centers. A main street is always a plus. There's things that you look for where you can say, okay, I can see stable growth there, or I can see action in the area, which can bring. And also, like, obviously inventory matters, right? You look at all the data to see, okay, is there homes being bought? What kind of houses are being bought? So all those things come into play. But what's kind of interesting is that you really have to just kind of just be like, okay, what makes a good flip? And then on top of it, like, wow, like, we're in this area, we have to
Mhm.
find materials that do this flip. We were like, you have all this coming to you at once, and you're in the time, and you're like, so, like, not only are you thinking about, okay, where are we going to find a house in an area we've never been before, I have to find a flooring company, I have to find contractors, I have to
Mhm.
find tile. And this is after the pandemic, so you have a shortage on everything, right? You have
Yeah.
incredible lead times. Throw in the supply shortages, throw in work shortages, on top of this. So if this happened 3 years ago, maybe it would have been a little bit easier. But everyone's going through the same thing nationwide, finding materials, finding help. There's a shortage everywhere right now,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and then this is an area such as DFW where you have so much construction going on. So you know, finding windows for a house was like a 5 month lead time. And
Wow.
coming from New York, where you could pretty much find anything, pretty much, like, you could find almost anything you need in New York. Yeah, lead times have gone up, prices have gone up, but I could probably even find a 24-hour hardware store if I really looked hard enough. But
Yeah.
then we go to Dallas, and you go to one store, they don't even have lumber. They have 5 pieces of lumber left. You go to another store, they only have 10 pieces of sheetrock, and you're like, oh my God, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I th I would struggle with that, and I would also struggle with, the pricing up in New York for, just say per square foot for some type of LVT, but when you go down to Texas, it could be completely different, and it's complete learning curve on just the cost of living down there, the market. It's just completely you're just getting thrown into a completely different way of life, basically.
You know, what's interesting about that is there's two really drastic things between New York and Texas, other than obviously the obvious things like climate and population and like taxes wise. But the two big things is New York is a disclosure state where you could find anything you need to know about a house by a Google search or like a search engine search. You could find anything you need to know about a house, permits, how much they pay in taxes, how much the house sold got for, year after year. Texas is a non-disclosure state. You can't even find comps really. Like, it's so difficult. You're going by prices, how much the houses that were listed for, opposed to how much the houses actually sold for, which
Yeah.
was super tricky. And so you don't have a really, unless you really know the market, you don't have that grasp for it. You don't have the data, so you're not able to really fully grasp it without having the full data. So that was one of the big things right there. And then the second thing really too is how do you evaluate houses in Texas? Completely different. So, like, New York, when they do an appraisal, yeah, they break it down per square footage, but like there's a lot of factors that go into how much a house is worth. And Texas, they go by the square foot a lot. So they'll be like, well, the square foot on this house in this neighborhood goes for, let's say $200 a square foot, whatever, whatever numbers they use. And they don't necessarily look at, well, okay, this house is going for 550, this house is going for 560. They go by square footage, and it really gets complicated because then if you find a house that's like double the size of another house, the agent will tell you, well, oh wow, you could get $800,000 for this house, and in reality, you're not going to get that by just simply going by that price per square foot formula.
Mhm.
So that's super tricky on how they work it down there, and you kind of just have to just sit back and be like, I don't know what to trust. I don't know what to. I'm just going to go by what my gut says, and that's what we end up doing. I mean, not everything makes TV, but we had to just sit back and be, I'm like, okay, agents want to sell you a house, but at the same time, you want to be able to feel comfortable buying a house.
Hmm.
And we saw so many houses during down there while we were down there. And there was times where we pulled back on not necessarily putting an offer on a place just because even though the agents were like, yeah, you can make all this money on the house, I just didn't feel comfortable. Or Danny didn't feel comfortable. Or there was something else external where I'm just like, okay, let's go to the next house.
Yeah. Funny that you bring up not everything makes TV, because I've talked to other HGTV stars, and they always say the same thing, and I always thought it'd be cool for the production company to come out with like maybe like behind the scenes season where you see all of like the planning, the stuff that doesn't make TV. It'd be so interesting to see all that behind the scenes work, and all the stuff that you endured
Well,
not over camera.
well, Eric, I got good news for you. The network is going to be coming out with it's called a clip show. It's like a reunion episode. It's going to be on, I believe it's going to be on Discovery Plus, and it doesn't show everything that doesn't make TV, but you're going to see clips of things that definitely did not make the series, and you're going to see our reactions to it, and it kind of brings up, and you'll see Allison, Victoria, and EJ and Jason, and Danny and I go over certain things that don't make the series, and it's kind of cool that you get that behind the scenes look on it. So
Yeah.
stay tuned on that. That's going to be that's going to stream on Discovery Plus in the next sometime in the next future. But that was really cool. We went out to LA. We filmed it. Really really cool scenes and things that were like, oh my god, I forgot that happened.
Oh yeah.
And
How long ago
yeah,
did
so
you record the actual show?
we recorded very recently, and within the last 12 months we did the show. So this is all really recent.
Oh wow, okay. Very interesting. Well, I want to end with you already brought up Discovery Plus. I want to say that everybody could go and watch Flip to a Million on Discovery Plus. Definitely give it some love. Tag them in social media, see what you think about the show. But last, I want you to tell me where people could find you on social media, where they could find your wife Dani and your company.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, Jonathan _Wrobel, WROBEL. My wife Dani, who's really the heart and soul of everything that we do. Her Instagram is Danielle Wrobel, same last name. And then our company is True Place Company, so at True Place Company. We're more prevalent on Instagram than anything. So you could always, or go on our website at trueplaceco.com as well. But yeah, follow us on Instagram. We do, what's cool is like my wife especially, she's very active on social media, and you'll see what we're doing in New York. You'll see some behind the scenes things that we post online in regards to the show, and you'll see what's coming next from us. And stay tuned, see what's going on. And it's cool, you'll see certain things, like we do a lot of crazy projects out in New York, Florida, New Jersey, and you'll see so many different things. So definitely follow us on Instagram, follow our stories, and hopefully we'll see what the future holds.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John, for coming on the Pro Series podcast. Everybody go stream Flip to a Million on Discovery Plus. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.